The silver streaks are tracing lines across the glass, dividing all the shadows from the hours that pass. I watch the street lamp flicker in the shallow pool, while the ceiling keeps the evening air so soft and cool. The rhythm of the tapping is a steady hand, counting out the grains of salt and desert sand. There is a hollow space inside this wooden chair, but I find a certain solace in the heavy air. The quiet isn't empty like it used to be. It's a velvet coat that fits me quite comfortably. No need to strike a match, a light a lonely flame when the falling water knows how to speak my name. Oh, the midnight sky is leaking through the cracks, covered in the dusty roads and the gravel tracks. I am leaning back to hear the roof descend, welcoming a deluge like an honest friend. There is glory in the gray and the sudden cold, a peaceful kind of story that is never told. The books upon a shelf are leaning to the left of every frantic motion I have been bereft. I've traded in the daylight for a darker blue, finding something honest and finding something true. In the way the droplets gather, then they drift apart, mimicking the beating of a calm and lonely heart. The world is washed in ink and indigo, where the rushing currents finally start to slow. It's a sanctuary built of mist and slate, leaving all the heavy burdens at the gate. Oh, the midnight sky is leaking through the cracks, covered in the dusty roads and the gravel tracks. I am leaning back to hear the roof descend, welcoming a deluge like an honest friend. There's glory in the gray and the sudden cold, a peaceful kind of story that is never told. The glass reflects a man I don't remember, divided by the glare of sapphire rain. The avenues are wider than a canyon, engraved with every syllable of pain. Your laughter is a frequency in transit, lost between the signal and the noise. I search the jagged skyline for a witness, but find no mercy in these glowing toys. The spectrum bleeds into the gutter, the current pulls me to the edge. I'm breathing in the ozone of your absence, balanced on a high voltage line. Welcome to the graveyard of the vivid, where the radiation of transistors, praying to a god of white hot glare. I'm stumbling through the labyrinth of diamonds, searching for a breath of common air. The spectrum bleeds into the gutter, the current pulls me to the edge. I'm breathing in the ozone of your absence, balanced on a high voltage ledge. Welcome to the graveyard of the vivid, where the radiance is gold as bone. I am drowning in a sea of artificial violet, never comes so utterly alone. The whiteness is a shroud upon the silence, an electric guiding for the dead. I'm wandering the circuits of our history, repeating every word you never said. Welcome to the graveyard of the vivid, where the radiance is gold as bone. I am drowning in a sea of artificial violet, never comes so utterly alone. The whiteness is a shroud upon the silence, an electric guiding for the dead. I'm wandering the circuits of our history, repeating every word you never said. The ceiling fan spins a slow orbit over the bed, counting the shadows of wires and ghosts in my head. The clock on the wall has a stutter I never perceived. Small cracks in the plaster reveal what I finally believed. Everything quiet is louder than shouting at noon. I'm anchored to blankets while staring back at the moon, tracing the outline of choices I buried away. Now they crawl through the dark, demanding a debt I must pay. This is the hour where the truth strips me down to the bone, when the crown is cast off and I sit on this mattress alone. The mask on the nightstand is grinning at who I became, while the cold in my chest keeps on calling my secret name. No one is watching and no one is coming to save, just a man and his pulse on the edge of a shallow grave. I am naked and honest and shaking beneath the sheets, where the logic of daylight and sanity finally retreats. Why do I lie to the mirror when sunlight is high? Building a tower of copper to scrape at the sky. The ink in my veins is a river of salt and regret, trying to pay for a lifetime I haven't lived yet. The silence is heavy like stones in a burlap sack, and there's no map that can show me the way to go back. My phone is a brick of dead glass with no signals to send, counting roadways that a beginning looks like an end. I remember the boy who could sleep through a thunderous rain. Now I'm startled by nothing but blood in my brain. The coffee is cold and the window is frosted with gray. The monsters look smaller when they are just minutes from day. But right now the darkness is thick as a gallon of tar, reminding me exactly how hollow and broken we are. The floorboards are groaning under the weight of the air. I am combing through memories, looking for something to wear, to cover the holes where the pride used to thicken the skin, before the clock struck 3 and the stripping of souls could begin. This is the hour where the truth strips me down to the bone, when the crown is cast off and I sit on this mattress alone. The mask on the nightstand and grinning at who I became, while the toad in my chest keeps on calling my secret name. No one is watching and no one is coming to save, just a man and his pulse on the edge of a shallow grave. This is the hour where the truth strips me down to the bone, when the crown is cast off and I sit on this mattress alone. The mask on the nightstand and grinning at who I became, while the cold in my chest keeps on calling my secret name. No one is watching and no one is coming to save, just a man and his pulse voice on the edge of a shallow grave.
The wipers trace a heavy line across the glass, while ghosts of taillights bleed into the grave. I watch the miles of empty pavement pass and let the city's fever fade away. The asphalt hums a low and steady tune, a secret share between the tires and the stone. Beneath the hollow cradle of the moon, I find a kingdom meant for me alone. The traffic signals change for vacant streets, an emerald flash that spills upon the hood. The syncopation of the engine beats reminds me that the silence here is good. No voices calling out to claim my time, no obligations pulling at my sleeve, just gravity and metal in their prime, and all the heavy burdens that I leave. The deluge washes out the tire frame of every structure built to hold me in. I do not need to lace her to a name or justify the places where I've been. This moving sanctuary keeps the pace between the liquid sky and solid ground. Sanctuary in a restless space, the truest liberty that I have found. The skyscrapers are shrouded in the mist, like giants turned to vapor in the cold. The iron and the concrete have been kissed by stories that remain forever told. I drift through tunnels carved in ancient rock, where yellow lamps ignite the falling spray. I stepped outside the ticking of the clock and left the frantic demands of the day. There is a clarity in solitude that only comes when raindrops fill the sight. A calm composure in the lonely mood that drives within the belly of the night. The dashboard glow is all the light I need to navigate the labyrinth of the soul. At this deliberate and quiet speed, I finally regain my own control. The world is blurred beyond the window pane, a portrait painted with a fluid hand. I'm cleansed of every worry and every stain, the master of the stock and silver lamp. The deluge washes out the tire frame of every structure built to hold me in. I do not need to answer cool a name or justify the places where I've been. This moving sanctuary keeps the place between the liquid sky and solid ground. A sanctuary in a restless space, the truest liberty that I have found. The needle drops on a bruised and faded floor, a ghost of black wax knocking at the door. I see you dancing through the static and soul, where the groove gets heavy and the motions hold. The attic light is thin and turning gold on a story that refuses to be told. The cardboard sleeve is torn along the edge, a jagged promise on a window ledge. Oh, it catches on the part where you said stay. The spindle turns but never looks away. A stutter in the soul that keeps your name, frozen in a circle near the flame. The skip repeats the way we used to touch, a fractured sound that doesn't mean as much. too much. The diamond tip is worn down to a bone, searching for a frequency we've outgrown. Love, the hiss between the lines is getting loud, like a sudden shadow from a summer cloud. There is a crack across the bridge we built, a slight distortion from the weight of guilt, but the melody is stubborn as a weed, growing through the cracks of every need. The boy catches on the part where you said stay. The spindle turns but never looks away. A static in the soul that keeps your name, frozen in the circle near the flame. We skip repeats the way we used to touch. A fractured sound that doesn't mean as much. But the skip repeats the way we used to touch, in a heavy, heavy spin of too much. Oh, it catches on the part where you said stay. The spindle turns but never looks away. A startup in the soul that keeps your name, frozen in the echo near the flame. The skip repeats the way we used to touch. A fractured sound that doesn't mean as much. But the skip repeats the way we used to play, in a heavy, heavy spin of too much. The clock face stutters at 12:30. A dusty casing pulled from the lower shelf. I shoved the plastic into the narrow slit, waiting for the hiss and the grit of it. The magnetic ribbon is thin and frayed, like every promise that we ever made. But I need to hear the ghost of your laugh, the jagged edges of a life cut in half. Brown plastic vein spinning on a wheel, reeling back the way you used to feel. The motor bones under the weight of the years, a shaky lullaby for my tired ears. I remember the salt on the summer skin before the silence started settling in. Now the pitch fluctuates and the speed is slow, but you're the only warmth that I still know. Rewind the sun until it burns my eyes, back to the truth before the tangle lies. Let the static wrap around me like a glove, and this shaky portrait of a broken love. Every pop and crackle is a place we stay, in the worn out anthem at the tension played. I am tethered to the spool of what used to be, while the wheels keep turning inside of me. Rewind the sun until it burns my eyes, back to the truth before the tangle lies. Let the static wrap around me like a glove, and this shaky portrait of a broken love. Every pop and crackle is a place we stay, in the worn out anthem at the tension played. I am tethered to a spool of what used to be, while the wheels keep turning inside of me. They say the tape will eventually snap, falling right into the memory gap, until the spool is empty and the music dies, and there's nothing left but midnight sighs. But I'll scotch tape the ends and I'll start again, press and play on the sorrow and my bitter rain, because of this story tomb is a sanctuary, better than the void of an empty treasury. The spindle stops with a heavy thud, the iron oxide is flowing Pull the track that brings the color of your jacket back. My thumb is callous from the buttons I press, seeking comfort in this chronological mess. It's a fragile loop, but it holds my weight small. Salvation in a magnetic state. Rewind the sun until it burns my eyes. Back to the truth before the tangled lies. Let the static wrap around me like love in this shaky portrait of a broken love. Every pop and crackle is a place we stay. In a worn out anthem, let the tension lay. I'm tethered to the spool of what used to be, while the wheels keep turning inside of me. Rewind the sun until it burns my eyes. Back to the truth before the tangled lies. Let the static wrap around me like a glove in this shaky portrait of a broken love. Every pop and crackle is a place we stay. In a worn out anthem, let the tension wait. I am gathered to the spool of what used to be, while the wheels keep turning inside of me.
Laser makes its porcelain seams. I'm sweeping up the ghosts of seasons past, and I'm remembering all those jagged dreams. The salt is rising from the thirsty ground to find its place within the ocean's hold. The silence grows from once there was a sound of stories that no longer must be told. The petals fall into a tight embrace, returning to the green within the stem. I'm washing every shadow from my face and handing back the heavy diadem. The garden turns its clock against the sun. The thorns are softening the velvet skin. The race is finished before it has begun. I'm digging out the light that's buried in. I am blooming in reverse tonight, shrinking from the fire to find the sea. Tucking all my darkness out of sight, stripping down to everything I need. The scars are fading into smooth like plains. The wind just swallows up the bitter fruit. I'm pouring life back through my weary veins and finding strength beneath the deepest root. Tonight, drinking from the fire to find the sea. Tucking all my darkness out of sight, stripping out of everything I need. The scars are fading into smooth like plains. The wind just swallows up the bitter fruit. I'm pouring life back through my weary veins and finding strength beneath the deepest root. The thunder pulls its voice back to the clouds. The rain is leaping upward from the dust. I'm walking lonely far from all the crowds to shed the iron layers of my rust. It takes a holy kind of quiet grace to unbecome the person I became, to find the hidden sacred hollow space and whisper something softer than a name. The clock is ticking toward a brighter dawn. The gravity has lost its heavy pull. The weight of every habit is withdrawn. The empty glass is suddenly quite full. I've unlearned how to carry all the stones. I've unseen all the monsters in the dark. A steady marrow builds inside my bones, igniting such a small and steady spark. I am blooming in reverse tonight, shrinking from the fire to find the sea. Tucking all my darkness out of sight, stripping down to everything I need. The core of it is just be white canes. The wind just swallows up the foot of fruit. I'm pouring life back through my weary veins and finding strength beneath the deep. I am blooming in reverse tonight, shrinking from the fire to find the sea. Sucking all my darkness out of sight, stripping down to everything I need. The core of it is just be white canes. The wind just swallows up the foot of fruit. I'm pouring life back through my weary veins and finding strength beneath the deepest root. The maps we drew in charcoal dust are fading on the floor. I trace the lines of your palm like a scripture to endure. We've spoken tongues of comets and the pull of lunar tides.
I've said. You were woven in the fabric of my very sense of self, like a leather-bound collection on a high and dusty shelf. But the binding started fraying and the pages drifted loose. Now the universe is offering a cold and grand excuse. I look up at the ceiling where the patterns used to glow, finding only scattered embers from a trillion years ago. There is a hollow where the burning used to be, a fracture in the logic of the things we couldn't see. The geometry of heaven has been rearranged for good, leaving shadows in the places where the silver pillars stood. Now the constellations crumble into diamonds made of gas, watching every holy promise join the seasons as they clash. I am drifting from the orbit of the lies I thought was mine, just a stray and lonely signal past the planetary line. And I'm marveling at the vastness of the dark that lies ahead, accepting all the quiet words the ancient stars have said. Clouds are heavy with the salt of yesterday. The pavement drinks until the dust is gone. I walk outside to meet the gray head on. No shelter sought against this cold display. This sky is opening its heavy chest to let the bottle sorrow find the stream. My boots are soaked in what I try to hide. Every drop is tracing paths across my face. It used to feel like losing in a race, but now the water washes out the tide of all the bitter things I held so tight, until my knuckles turn to ghost of white. Let the downpour drown the garden of regret. Every gallon feeds the roots beneath the clay. What was broken isn't finished with me yet, but the storm is clearing all ghosts away. I am standing where the river meets the soul, watching jagged edges finally turning whole. There is a logic in the way the thunder rolls, a heavy rhythm built on sudden change. The landscape looks familiar but so strange, as mud and spirit swap their ancient roles. I used to run for cover from the wet, now I linger where the earth and sky have met. The clouds are thinning out into a haze, a silver light is breaking through the wall. There is a wisdom in the way we fall and how we rise through all these sudden days. Let the downpour drown the garden of regret. Every gallon feeds the roots beneath the crate. What was broken ain't finished with me yet, but the storm is clearing all the coast away. I am standing where the river meets the soul, watching jagged edges finally turning whole. Let the downpour drown the burden of regret. Every gallon feeds the roots beneath the crate. What was broken
watching jagged edges I'm returning home.
The copper crown of the maple tree is thinning now. The skeletal reach toward the sky, turn white as bone. I watch the amber coin spill across the pavement, spent by a season that can no longer afford to stay. The lawn is a mosaic of things that used to be green, crunching beneath boots that are headed for inside. The porch swing shutters in a draft that smells of iron, and the birds have already traded this zip code for the sun. It is a graceful kind of folding up the chairs, a quiet surrender that the calendar demands. We are shedding the weight of every heavy summer, letting the brittle pieces drift where they must land. There is a beauty in the way the color bleeds away, knowing that nothing stays gold and nothing stays the same. Chimney rats ghosts on the air, small gray prayers for a winter that is breathing down our necks. I used to hold on until my knuckles turned to stone, but the trees are teaching me how to let the grip go slack. Everything we're keeping is tucked beneath the frost, waiting for its turn to be something entirely new. The garden beds are tucked under blankets of rust and gold, 1,000 tiny funerals for the flowers we used to know. The light is shorter now and leaning toward the west, changing the shadows into longing jagged lines. I'll brew a pot of tea and listen to the rafters groan, while the world outside prepares to go to sleep. It's not a tragedy when the leaves decide to fall, it's just the earth making room for what comes next. There's a grateful kind of folding up the chairs, a quiet surrender the calendar demands. We all shake the weight of every heavy summer, letting the brittle pieces drift where they must land. There is a beauty in the way the color bleeds away, knowing that nothing stays gold and nothing stays the same. The dust has settled on the cracked porcelain of us. I scrubbed your fingerprints off the mahogany frame. The oxygen tastes different now that you are not breathing it first. I am learning the geometry of a room that does not lean toward your shadow. The silence used to be a threat, but now it is a heavy velvet blanket. I am uncurling my spine from the shape of your constant disapproval. You sold me a man Then blame the compass for the stone walls rising up. I was a specialist in the architecture of your excuses, building cathedrals out of the gravel you threw at my feet. But the mortar dried brittle and the stained glass shattered. I found a key hidden in the palm of my unshaking hand. I am dropping the anchor into the deepest trench of the sea. The weight is no longer mine to carry across the surface. I'm burning the ledger where I kept track of my failures to please you. The smoke is the only ghost I allow to linger in this hallway. I am reclaiming the parts of my name you tried to erase. Walking out of the fire with skin made of cold polished steel. I looked in the mirror and did not recognize the hollow eyes. A stranger who was living in the house of my skin for far too long. You told me the sky was falling so I would never look up. But the clouds are just water and the sun is a permanent fixture. I am reassembling the fragments of a sovereign mind. The throne is empty and I am the only one embodied to say I am dropping the anchor into the deepest trench of the sea. The way is no longer mine to carry across the surface. I am burning the lodge where I kept track of my failures to please you. The smoke is the only ghost I allow to linger in this hallway. I am reclaiming the parts of my name you tried to erase. Walking out of the fire with skin made of cold polished steel. I am dropping the anchor into the deepest trench of the sea. The weight is no longer mine to carry across the surface. I am burning the ledger where I kept track of my failures to please you. The smoke is the only ghost I allow to linger in this hallway. I am reclaiming the parts of my name you tried to erase. Walking out of the fire with skin made of cold polished steel. The morning air is a sharpened blade against the sketches we thought we made. I watched the ink begin to bleed, a shallow root for a restless seed. You traced a line across my palm, a sudden storm in a hollow calm. The edges fray where we used to hold, turning white and growing cold. It only takes a shifting breeze to bring the giants to their knees. One heavy breath against the pain, and we dissolve like salt in rain. We are just paper hearts in the wind, waiting for the tearing to begin. Folded tight but bound to fail, a frantic flight so thin and pale, scattered high across the gray, the jagged ghosts of yesterday. No anchor deep enough to stay, just paper hearts that blow away. We built a house of thin veneer to hide the pulse of every fear. The architecture of a sigh, a fragile grid against the sky. Now every corner starts to bend, a quiet means to a bitter end. The glue is dry, the bond is worn, before the seam is even torn. It only takes a shifting breeze to bring the giants to their knees. One heavy breath against the pain, and we dissolve like salt in rain. We are just paper hearts in the wind, waiting for the tearing to begin. Folded tight but bound to fail, a frantic flight so thin and pale,
so thin and pale, scatter high across the grave. A jagged ghost of yesterday, no waker deep enough to stay. Just paper hearts that blow away. Kitchen floor still carries the chill of January, where I trace the cracks in the linoleum like a map of my own failures. I stack the heavy crates of your ghost and shove them into the cellar, leaving the windows wide to let the dust settle into something familiar. The silence used to be a thick velvet curtain choking the air, but now it is just the sound of my own breath returning to my lungs. I stripped the faded wallpaper that hid the scars on the plaster, finding the sturdy domes of a house that managed to stand alone. And it is not a sudden sunrise or a grand parade of gold, just the quiet grace of mending what I thought was bought and sold. I am learning the weight of my own hands without yours to hold, writing a New Testament on the pages that turn cold. It is a slow walk back to the center of the garden, forgiving the soil for the seasons that were hardened. I am my own sanctuary now, the only promise I am forced to keep. I saw my reflection in a rain barrel by the garden gate, a stranger with eyes like one coins, but a spine made of ironwood. I stopped asking the wind why the heavy branches had to break, and started wondering at how the roots grew deep enough to survive the flood. The hollow space in my chest is no longer a canyon for shouting. It is a small room where I finally sat down to drink my tea. I burned the old letters, not out of anger, but for the warmth they gave. Then I walked out into the yard to see what was left of me. And it is not a sudden sunrise or a grand fillet of gold, just the quiet grace of mending what I thought was bought and sold. I am learning the weight of my own hands without yours to hold, writing a New Testament on weak edges that turn cold. It's a slow walk back to the center of the garden, forgetting the soil for the seasons that were hardened. I am my own sanctuary now, the only promise I am forced to keep. Silver dust settles on the windowsill, while the clockwork of the town grinds to a halt. I lean against the cold glass and remain still, tracing maps of constellations without a fault. The sky is a heavy velvet curtain drawn wide, hiding the secrets that the dead I burn away. I watch the pale glow start its slow slide to catch the dreams that the shadows convey. There is a diamond hanging just above the pine, a solitary spark in the vast and lonely deep, a name for the peace I hope to define before I surrender my heavy eyes to sleep. The crickets have ceased their rhythmic hum, the breeze carries a scent of damper than pine. I wait for the clarity that is
never be bored as I cast my heavy burdens into the dark. Let the steady beam wash the bitterness clean until the jagged edges of the soul start to mend. In this quiet space where the unseen is seen, and every broken promise finds a way to end. Doesn't speak in a language of noise. It writes its ancient scripture in flashes of white, restoring the balance and the inner poise through the gentle gravity of the velvet night. It is a slow medicine brewed in the void, a calm that settles like dew on the dry grass. All the frantic hours that we once employed are nothing but shadows that flicker and pass. The weight on my chest begins to feel light as the Milky River flows across the high dome. I am just a traveler in the middle of life, finding a temporary ceiling to call my home. No longer chasing the ghosts of my own regret. I let the brilliance soak into the weary bone. The sun is a memory I'm happy to forget while I stand in the glory of the great unknown. The horizon is blurred where the indigo meets the black. The questions of the morning lose their sharp sting. There is no reason now for looking back when the silent atmosphere starts to sing. I'll shine a path through the tangled maze of thought, when the fractures where the long play left its mark. Give me the sanctuary that can never be bought as I cast my heavy burdens into the dark. Let the steady beam wash the bitterness clean until the jagged edges of the soul start to bend. In this quiet space where the unseen is seen, and every broken promise finds a way to end. The dust settled in the attic where the light bleeds gray. I found a cardboard box tucked beneath the window frame. A paper ghost was hiding under piles of overdue bills, capturing the summer that the calendar forgot to kill. The colors bled into a haze of amber and pale peach, a moment held in suspension, just barely out of reach. Your jacket was too big and the sky was much too wide. We were leaning on a fence with nowhere left to hide. The chemicals have faded, but the laughter hasn't aged, like a secret kept in ink on a brittle yellow page. I can almost feel the static from the radio in the yard before the years got heavy and the winters grew so hard. But there is a fire in the train that refuses to go cold, a piece of sun captured in a square for us to hold. Though the edges are all frayed and the silver starts to rust, something honest remains breathing underneath the dust. It is a small kind of mercy in the palm of my hand, a map to a country that we no longer understand. The garden in the background is a jungle of tangled grain, sharper silhouette that my tired eyes have seen. We were looking at the lens like we knew the trick of time, like we could stay suspended in our golden hour prime. Now the house has different shutters and the trees have grown so tall, but the scrap of glossy paper hasn't changed its mind at all. And there is a fire in the frame that refuses to go cold, a piece of sun captured kiss square for us to hold. Though the edges are all frayed and the silver starts to rust, something honest remains breathing underneath the dust. It is a small kind of mercy in the palm of my hand, a map to a country hours on the empty platform edge. I watched your shadow melt into the concrete ledge. The clock face stares with a cold and heavy hand as iron wheels start carving up the frozen land. I left my heavy coat hanging by your front door, a silent ghost of what I am not anymore. The sparks fly upward like some dying constellations between the static of the local transit stations. I feel the pull of tracks that stretch toward the grave, taking back the pieces that I threw away. This locomotive carries what remains of me across the borders that we swore we'd never see. The distance is a medicine I have to take for every promise that we didn't mean to break. The rails are humming with a strange and quiet grace, finding room for mercy in this hollow space. This locomotive carries what remains of me across the borders that we swore we'd never see. The distance is a medicine I have to take for every promise that we didn't mean to break. The rails are humming with a strange and quiet grace, finding room for mercy in this hollow space. I trace the condensation on the window pane, writing letters that will vanish in the rain. Your face is blurring in the motion of the glass, watching all the sleeping suburban houses pass. There is a dignity in knowing when to go, when the river beneath the bridge begins to slow. The conductor calls a name I used to recognize before the dawn begins to scratch the eastern skies. I'm trading in the comfort of a familiar scar for the steady vibration of this rattling car. This locomotive carries what remains of me across the borders that we swore we'd never see. The distance is a medicine I have to take for every promise that we didn't mean to break. The mares are humming with a strange and quiet grace, finding room for mercy in this hollow space. This locomotive carries what remains of me across the borders that we swore we'd never see. The distance is a medicine I have to take for every promise that we didn't mean to break. The rails are humming with a strange and quiet grace, finding room for mercy in this hollow space. The dust is settled on the mantelpiece where silhouettes of us used to dance. The shadows lengthen with a slow release, a final flicker of a worn romance. The fireplace is cold and ashen white, no embers left to spark a brand new flame. We watch the bleeding of the evening light without a single breath to speak a name. before the bitter words begin to burn. A soft surrender to the undertow, accepting lessons we were slow to learn. No slamming doors or jagged streaks of glass, just a velvet dimming of the sight. Watching the ghosts of our memories pass into the charcoal velvet of the night. The keys are resting on the wooden shelf beside the hollow space where we began. I've made a quiet peace within myself and folded up the blueprint and the plan. The guardian outside holds its wintry breath. The rose is brittle in the coming frost. There is no mourning for this gentle death, only the naming of the things we lost. Your coat is gathered in a careful fold. The door is waiting for the latch to click. The stories that we both have overtold have burned down to the bottom of the wicket. Isn't failure if the song is done, and every note was played with honest grace. We're just two travelers beneath the sun, finding a different path from this old place. And so we let colors turn to gray, with hands folded like a silent prayer. There is no jagged edge to this decay, only the stillness of the cooling air. It is a quiet exit through the hall, a graceful bowing as the curtain drops, watching the last of our seasons fall until the motion of the clockwork stops. The kitchen floor still carries the chill of January, where I trace the cracks in the linoleum like a map of my own failures. I stacked the heavy crates of your ghosts and shoved them into the cellar, leaving the windows wide to let the dust settle into something familiar. The silence used to be a thick velvet curtain choking the air, but now it is just the sound of my own breath returning to my lungs. I stripped the faded wallpaper that hid the scars on the plaster, finding the sturdy bones of a house that managed to stand alone. And it is not a sudden sunrise or a grand parade of gold, just a quiet grace of mending what I thought was bought and sold. I am learning the weight of my own hands without yours to hold, writing a New Testament on pages that turned cold. It is a slow walk back to the center of the garden, forgiving soil for the seasons that were hard. And I am my own sanctuary now, the only promise I am forced to keep. I saw my reflection in a rain barrel by the guardian gate, a stranger with eyes like worn coins, but a spine made of ironwood. I stopped asking the wind why the heavy branches had to break, and started wondering how the roots grew deep enough to survive the flood. The hollow space in my chest is no longer a canyon for shouting. It is a small room where I finally sat down to drink my tea. I burned the old letters, might out of anger, but for the warmth they gave. Then I walked out into the yard to see what was left of me. And there's not a sudden sunrise or a grand parade of gold, just the quiet grace of mending what I thought was bought and sold. I am letting the weight of my own hands without yours to hold, writing a New Testament on the pages that turn cold. This is a slow walk back to the center of the garden, forgiven soil for the seasons that were hard. And I am my own sanctuary now, the only promise I am forced to keep.
Steam rises from a porcelain cup, but I don't feel the heat. The door chimes are greeting to every pair of shoes upon the street. I'm sitting in the corner where the sunlight used to find your hair, but now the chair is vacant and the shadows keep me lingering there. The barista writes a name on paper, but it isn't mine today. I'm just as much a pencil late that someone tried to rub away. I remember how the sugar used to melt inside the dark bound swirl, back when we were tethered to the center of a smaller world. Now the clock upon the wall has got a stutter in its metal heart. Every second stretches out until the minutes fall apart. The radio is playing something happy that I've never heard. I'm trying to speak the chorus, but I can't remember one single word. I am the ghost of the espresso bar, the phantom of the grind, walking through the memories that you left scattered here behind you, looking through the window at the life we used to call our own. While I'm haunting every table, standing visible and all alone. The silver spoons are clinking, but they make a hollow, lonesome sound. I'm a spirit in a sweater, waiting simply to be found. I watched you buy a medium roast and take it to the park. The way you used to handle matches just to strike a tiny spark. The scent of roasted beans is heavy like a shroud around my face. I'm pacing out the perimeter of this bit of sacred space. The floorboards know my footsteps, but they don't groan beneath my weight. I'm a permanent inhabitant who arrived a little late. The newspaper is dated from a month before you say goodbye. I'm staring at the headlines till the ink begins to bleed and cry. The steam is fogging up the glass and drawing circles in the dust. Everything we built together turned to iron, turned to rust. I see the ghost of us laughing by the jars of peppermint tea. The double in the reflection doesn't look a thing like me. The grinders start to mumble and the milk begins to hiss. There isn't any map to lead a shadow out of this. The world is moving forward in a frantic golden rush, while I am staying silent in the cooling autumn hush. I am the ghost of the espresso bar, the phantom of the grind, walking to the memories that you love's scattered here behind you, looking through the window at the life you used to call our own. While I'm haunting every table, standing visible and all alone. Silver spoons are clinking, but they make a hollow, lonesome sound. I'm a spirit in a sweater, waiting simply to be found. I am the ghost of the espresso bar, the phantom of the grind, walking through the memories that you love scattered here behind you, looking through the window at the life we used to call our own. While I'm haunting every table,